Welcome to History 112, Lecture 35, The End of the Pacific War. Now, early in World War II, the United States and their allies are going to be stunned by the rapid advance of the Japanese. MacArthur, for example, is going to be forced out of the Philippines in March 1942, and less than a month later, 10,000 Americans and 60,000 Allied Filipino troops at Bataan are going to be forced to surrender. And the Japanese are going to put them on a march for 5 days and 5 nights on what's going to become known as the Bataan Death March. And that's going to be something that's going to be the subject of some war crimes trials after the war. Now, Japan's going to begin this war with something of an advantage. That's going to contribute to things like their victory in the Philippines. But for the naval war, what's going to matter are going to be aircraft carriers. And Japan has 6 fast fleet carriers, whereas the United States has 4 in the Pacific and 1 under repair. And that gives Japan a bit of an advantage. But in mid-1942, we're going to begin a turn of tide. First, in April, James Doolittle is going to lead a bombing raid on Tokyo, and that's going to do very little damage, but be a big psychological boost to the United States. And Japan's going to respond by moving on Australia, the Americans' main ally. That's going to lead to the Battle of the Coral Sea at the beginning of May. And what happens is the United States is going to go ahead and intercept the Japanese naval forces, and we're going to fight the first fleet-to-fleet battle of the war that's going to be fought entirely with aircraft. At the end of the battle, Japan has 4 operational carriers with 2 out of action, and the United States has 3 with 1 out of action. So the United States has at least temporarily negated a little bit of the Japanese advantage. This is going to be importantly followed by the Battle of Midway in June, where Japan is going to go ahead and try to set a trap for the United States, but the United States can read Japanese codes and is going to set a better trap. Now, Japan is going to launch an invasion of the Aleutian Islands in Alaska in an attempt to draw off American forces, and American forces are not going to fall for that. Now, this is going to leave Japan with only 4 fleet carriers available to attack Midway, and the United States is going to send 3 carriers along with the air wing from a 4th. Now, Japan is going to bomb Midway, and the U.S. carriers are going to strike right when the Japanese planes are refueling and rearming. And that means the decks are going to be full of bombs and fuel. What happens as a result of the attack is Japan loses 3 carriers in the first U.S. strike, and there's a 4th carrier later on. During this battle, the United States is going to lose 1. The results are that Japan has no fast fleet carriers left except for the 2 that are under repair, while the United States has 3 that are going to become fully operational. Now, remember, there was 1 under repair, and that is going to hit the sea before this battle, but it's not going to be able to make it. So the United States now has the advantage. Now, the victory at Midway means the United States has a temporary advantage, but it's far from certain who's going to win this war. And importantly, the Allies need to hold on to the Solomon Islands to protect Australia. And Guadalcanal, one of the major islands there, becomes a 6-month battle until February 1943 when the Japanese forces have to flee. Now, this battle all goes on as a meat grinder with both sides pouring soldier after soldier into this bloody mess until ultimately Japanese offensive power is destroyed. But this is also going to cost the U.S. very badly, and America is going to be down to 1 operational carrier at times. Importantly, though, after the battle is over, Japan is now on the defensive because the U.S. shipbuilding program that Roosevelt had gotten authorized back in 1940 starts churning out more warships than Japan could possibly deal with. And just to give you a sense of what that's like, the United States is going to end the war with around 100 operational carriers of various sizes, where Japan is going to have difficulty keeping even a dozen carriers of any size at sea. Also, after Guadalcanal, we begin the island hopping campaign. The United States is going to take strategic target after strategic target. One of the more important battles known as the Battle of Leyte Gulf in 1944, because that's the first use of the Japanese kamikaze. And what we see towards the end of the war is an increasing use by the Japanese of suicide attacks. Now, at the same time as this island hopping is being more successful, American bombers are able to get in range and begin to start dropping tons of bombs on Tokyo and other important Japanese cities. Now, as the war progresses, and the U.S. island hopping campaign is more successful, the intensity of Japanese fighting increases, especially as we get closer and closer to the Japanese home islands. Now, the Battle of Iwo Jima is one of the later battles in the war. It's one of the most brutal, because if this island falls, what this will allow the Americans to do is send fighter escorts all the way to the Japanese home islands and back by basing them there. And this becomes a major loss for the Japanese when they lose this battle. Now, there are 20,000 Japanese soldiers holding this island, and only 216 survive because they literally fight to the death. Now, on the other hand, about 1/3 of U.S. troops are killed or wounded during this battle. Now, the next major target they take is Okinawa, which is the main island of a 620-mile-long island chain that extends south from the 4 home islands of Japan, and it's sometimes referred to as the 5th home island. It's about 400 miles from the other ones. Now, this is the first major battle with large numbers of Japanese civilians involved, and 105 of the 120,000 Japanese troops that are stationed there are killed during this action. Importantly, 200,000 civilians are killed, the majority of whom died as a result of suicide when American soldiers tried to capture their villages. As a result of the intensity of fighting at Iwo Jima and Okinawa, American experts are going to estimate that an invasion of the Japanese home islands would result in 1 to 2 million American casualties just to take control of Kyushu. And there would be 3 home islands left after that. Now, based on Okinawa, they ultimately estimate that 10 to 15 million Japanese civilian deaths would occur during the entire campaign, or about 1/3 of the Japanese population would die if we tried to invade. Now, the Americans are importantly going to be unwilling to use Allied forces, and this will be an American-only invasion, and that has to do with the emerging context of the Cold War, which we'll talk about in a later lecture. Now, Truman, who is now the U.S. president following the death of Roosevelt, is going to decide to use the atom bomb in part to make a point to Joseph Stalin. So on August 6, 1945, Enola Gay is going to drop the first bomb on Hiroshima, and 3 days later, a second bomb on Nagasaki. Now, Hiroshima had been an important industrial city. 76,000 buildings are going to be destroyed as a result of this blast, or about 63% of the city. 80 to 120,000 people are going to die instantly, and more are going to die later from burns or radiation. This bombing and the events that follow completely stuns Japan. 3 days after Hiroshima, the Soviet Union declares war. 1 day later than that, a second bomb is dropped on Nagasaki. The Japanese simply do not know what to do. So what happens next is something unprecedented in Japanese history. The government is divided on what to do and cannot formulate a response. Half the government wants to surrender unconditionally. The other half either wants to continue the war at all costs or only surrender if the Allies will allow the Japanese emperor to remain on the throne. Now, the emperor is going to step in and he is going to order the government to surrender. And in the end, the Allies are going to allow him to remain in power, at least superficially. Although the real power in post-war Japan for the first few years is going to rest in the Allied military governor, Douglas MacArthur. So what's the big idea here? Well, Japan is very successful earlier on, but ultimately they cannot keep up with American industrial might. Now, there's brutal fighting towards the end of the war, and that's going to be one of the factors in the Truman's decision to use the atom bomb. Another factor is going to be the emergence of the Cold War. As this war is going on, this wartime alliance between the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union is souring, and America has its eye very much on the next conflict, which is expected to be with the Soviet Union. So the use of the atom bomb is also, to a certain extent, to make a point to the Soviets. See you in the next lecture.